Today in the Smugglers Room, we're rolling out some really sweet control panels. But they're not just for our projects. They're available for you right now. That's coming up. What's up, you awesome geeks? I'm Brian and welcome to the Smugglers Room. This week, this chubby geek wants to show you something we've been working on that we think will be really valuable for your upcoming projects. Over on the smugglersroom.com, the store is open. We have our droid interface kit, color tiles, digital files, scavenger bags, and 2 new control panel kits that I want to show you today. You see, we've been asked by geek makers all over when we would offer some type of the elements that we use in our projects for you. So we set to work on coming up with a couple of different designs that utilize as much of the material and as much versatility as we possibly could. But instead of me just rambling, let's take these panels, let's show you these kits and put them together and make a couple of projects out of them. Let's do that. So you can see that with this kit, we've been able to take 2 pretty simple pieces of acrylic and a design and make it as versatile as possible, allowing you to have multiple pieces that you can use in a number of different ways to not only create one project, but probably enough pieces left to create multiple projects. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take all these various kits and we're going to divide those up and we're going to create a couple of different projects out of them to give you some ideas of what you can do with it. We'll even take some found objects and introduce those into the cut pieces of acrylic. And hopefully that gives you some great ideas. I think for this first one, we're going to start out with just the acrylic pieces that come with the kit. And let's configure this into some kind of cool control panel. We'll take this first frame. I think I like the idea of the frame being there. And then I like the idea of this center ring being elevated. So now we've got some different levels going on. As far as this corner, I think we'll take this bracket piece here and we'll put it in place as well. And then there is one piece of acrylic that actually has a design cut into it. And we'll put that down in here and it'll be nice and recessed. We'll work on these tile pieces here and we can put those inside there. And then for the center, we'll take the center socket wheel and I think the little cutout that comes with the second kit cut. And we'll put those 2 together and that'll be our little center socket. Let's try that. Now, one of the first things you have to decide and do is remove the protective paper that's on the outside. In this case, I know that this is getting glued onto here and I know that this piece is getting glued onto here. So I'll be able to remove all the paper here. I'm gonna leave the paper in place right here and right here. And I'm gonna show you a neat trick of using that as masking when you do your paint job. So for now, I'm gonna use my trusty little plastic blade that's designed to help you remove the paper. Comes in pretty handy if you're doing this quite a lot. And the paper should peel apart really simply. So we've got that completely cleared off and we left the paper in here and here. So what's going to happen is I'm going to coat this all with just a flat black primer after I glue a couple things on here. And then we'll be able to come in after the fact and peel these away so that you've got a clear face and a black background. And then when we spray everything else with maybe a gunmetal or some kind of silver, you'll get kind of a two-tone effect and you've got built-in masking right on it. It's also why on the frame that we did these scored lines here. paper. You could leave the paper on here, paint everything else, and then come back and have some various tones. Just kind of an easy way to mask your paint job. The next step I need to take on this is that everywhere here that this is going to be glued onto, I need to go ahead and take like a 400 grit sandpaper and just lightly sand the acrylic down. That way there's some tooth for the CA glue to bind to. And we'll do the same thing on the back side of this frame. So we've got a little sanding going on the back of these. We've done a little sanding on here, and now we're ready to go ahead and glue these together. I like CA glue. This is an extra thick CA glue, BSI products. I like that quite a bit. And then I also like using the 1, 2, 3 blocks when I'm doing this because I can use that to help line up all the surfaces and keep everything nice and straight when I'm doing this kind of work. This is all glued together. Before I take the protective paper off this top layer, I like to sand the edges. The laser cutter can leave little tiny lines and marks all across those edges. Just some 400 grit sandpaper and you can smooth that out. And that way when it paints, it looks a lot nicer. We're glued together, we're sanded. You can see all the little glue marks. The last step is to take some of this plastic clean and shine, this Novus. This particular stuff will remove dust. It takes care of fogging up the plexiglass, and it also keeps it from being overly static to allow it to attract dust. And then I'm gonna go ahead and spray this with a flat black spray paint. So now that we have it primed, just a flat black color, we're gonna go in and spray everything down with an iron metallic paint. Here's the panel with the burnt iron on it. And now we'll take out these center areas here where we did the masking. So now you can see we've got a nice reflective glass from the acrylic and then the black paint that's behind it, which allows it to kind of just show through there. Now we need to come up with a center wheel and how we're going to mount this thing. Now we have the panel. I went ahead and painted up the center wheel pieces here. These holes, the diameter, fit an M6 bolt. You'll be able to simply put a bolt in place and now you have your center wheel. You can also do some things with servos and whatnot. You could take these pieces together here and you could mount them on anything. Maybe it's a wall, maybe it's just a piece of MDF like I have here. You could get it mounted up. You could get this all sprayed. You could cut the holes. I've even marked them here. You could cut all these different holes out so that you could put the electronics and whatnot behind all the lights. But I want to do something just a little bit different. Maybe you don't have access to tools and things for MDF, but you've got a razor blade and maybe you have access to foam. This foam block here is about the right size for the panel to mount to. So maybe we want to take this and create a data pad. I've cut out the shape of the inside piece of this panel, and then I ran it through the bandsaw and I split it in half. Took the trusty razor blade and I went down the side and cut a chamfer along this front edge. Cut the corners, rounded it off with some sandpaper, and now I have a way to mount all of this and we can make ourselves a data pad. I left the squares here with a little bit of a lip so that you can take the square tiles and you can set those in. Now the square tiles that come with our kit, they're clear. You can spray one side and illuminate from the other. But we also on the website today have colored tiles available. And there's a select group of these thicker color tiles, or you can get them in the 1/8 inch variety. And that little lip I left on the foam on the inside, we can now glue those to it. You can also see that I left an open channel here so that we can run some LEDs up and illuminate these tiles. By cutting this recess area here, I have room to put in the electronics, and then I can also illuminate all these other areas where we have different cutouts. In the center, I could take that center wheel that comes with the kit and it could get mounted down inside. We could recess the bolt, but this also gives you options for other found objects that would fit inside there. A juice lid, for example. That fits pretty nice down below. Perhaps you've got a hard drive motor or two laying around that you could mount inside the juice lid and down inside the recess, like so. I also found a lens cover from a CRT projector, one of the old 3-tube projectors, and this fits really nicely underneath. So you could mount that inside, we could put some lighting in it, and then we've got this cool looking dome down inside. The point is, there's a whole bunch of different things you can add to this kit or put down inside areas to give some more interest. We'll finish up all the sides, we'll get some Plasti Dip on it, and see how far we can take this, including electronics. So I have a quick mock-up of some electronics, nothing fancy. It's a battery pack with a button. We're gonna slide it in here and it'll have Velcro on the top. And then all we did was wire up a pair of RGB LEDs and a couple of warm white LEDs. There's nothing special to this. The warm white ones will stay on all the time. The RGB LEDs, they change color on their own, which is kind of slick. It looks terrible. It's hot glued in there, but we're gonna cover that up right now. I'll have to clean that up just a little bit. That works. I'm going to heat seal the foam real quick and then we can apply the Plasti Dip. We've got the Plasti Dip all on this. I was gonna spray it a different color, but I kind of like the dark black underneath it. Although I really love the wheel that we have with the kit, I think I'm gonna go with a combination of the hard drive motor and this green lens. We'll get the hard drive motor glued in place. I'm gonna take these two LEDs that we have here and we're gonna kind of wrap them around so that they are attached under this ridge here. Is we need to put something around this here a little bit so that you can't see the ugly hot glue and whatnot. Just gonna use a little of this packing material. Got a little bit of packing material in there. I don't know, it looks okay. It's kind of hidden when you put the lens on. It kind of distorts it so it's not quite as obvious. Once this goes on top too, any of the ugliness kind of gets covered up. With our kit, you'll get some of these square 1 inch by 1 inch tiles. And what you can do is you can spray the back and then they'll emit light through there. On our website, we have colored tiles, which is what I'm gonna use for these two guys right there. So now that we got our white tiles in, if we kick on the light, we get a nice glow through those tiles. We've got a few last details. One of them is going to be this little acrylic piece that's been scored, and I've hit it with a little silver paint, and that's going to go in this little spot here. couple months back, I was lucky enough to purchase an entire set of hard drive motors. I don't work on computers, so I'm sure there's someone out there that can tell me exactly why you need these aluminum rings, regardless of what the purpose is of these. I'm lucky enough that the circle that I made in this laser cut panel fit that aluminum ring exactly. And now we can add another bit of used or found items to add a little bit more interest to our panel. I want to point out that all of these individual circles in the four corners are sized for M6 bolts. Now in this case, I don't need to bolt this to the foam, but it would be nice to add a little bit as a decorative element. So I've got a few different styles of hex head. These happen to be really short, and because of their shortness, I can put them into each of these and it'll add just a little bit more detail to the actual panel. The last little addition I want to make is right here. Now, what these were actually sized for are these small LED holders that you received in your kit. And in this case, I'm not going to actually add LEDs to these, but I am going to fill the little ends with something that's of interest in those holes. In my little bits drawer, I was able to find some of these turned copper pieces. I can't tell you where they came from. I just collect everything that's random. And then I was able to put that on, and they fit pretty nicely inside those little LED holders. The last little bit we need to add is an antenna. If it's some kind of radio controlled piece, it needs an antenna. The last step we're going to take is a little weathering. I'm going to use some Winsor and Newton water mixable oil paints, a little makeup brush, and I'm just going to do a little light weathering on this. One, I can hide the damage I've done in a couple of spots where I scratched the paint. Two, it just makes it look a little more authentic. And there we go. Yeah, I think we're there. Now, before I show you the finished data pad, let's take a look at the second kit and how I'm using it in a project that I'm putting together in my room build. At the start of the episode, we talked about having two different kits. This is the second of those kits. Let's take a look at it. Like with the first kit, these are broken into two different panels. This first panel is largely scored, meaning all the detail work is scored across the panel itself with a few different pieces cut out. And because this is clear acrylic, you're able to take these items here and you can side light them to get all the detail to pop if you wanted to put that in one of the windows. With the second panel, we took it a little bit further and we cut out almost every aspect of the actual panel, giving you a whole variety of different parts and pieces that you can use inside your project. Let's take a look at what I've done with one of these panel kits. There's an area in our room build that I'm working on right now that I needed some control panels. That's where this design came from. What I thought was you could take the back panel that has all the scored lines and then glue the outside layer from the second panel in place, and that would give you depth and add dimensionality to the panel. From there, you can take the laser cut and scored pieces of acrylic and they can set into those positions and you can illuminate those from the back. However, this area here has a little bonus. Most of the hard drive motors in my collection have the same diameter on the rear as well as this frame. So these are designed to allow those to be recessed into that spot. Just keep in mind that not all hard drive motors are the exact same size. I took one that had the most common dimensions of all of those that I have, and that's how we sized this specific spot. Now, of course, I didn't use all the pieces in just that panel. There are plenty of extras left over that I've painted up, and I'm going to utilize these in a larger project that I'm ready to assemble right now, and I think we'll go ahead and show you how that's coming along. So I know this was a little bit of a different episode today, but we're hoping all the work and design we put into these panels might prove really valuable for you in one of your upcoming projects. These designs, along with a limited run of our Droid interface kit, colored tiles, scavenger bag, and digital files are all available on the smugglersroom.com website. Head on over there, take a look, see if there's something that might fit for your project, because we can't wait to see what you do with it when you build something out of nothing. Thunder. Thunder.